Dom, we're back.
We are so back, Jenna.
I missed you so much.
I've missed you too. I know.
I
Two
think we
weeks.
did. I know. And it, for the first time, it felt like 2 weeks. Usually, when I would take vacation from work, well, okay, we can
Hmm.
talk about this in a minute, but like 2 weeks never really felt like 2 weeks. And this felt like 2 weeks. So I feel quite proud of myself. But also, no, I can't even say that I didn't work. We'll get into all of that. But it was so nice. It's nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too.
All
Want to
right,
start the show?
let's start the show. Hi, I'm Jenna,
And I'm Dom, and we're both award-winning journalists.
who've recently been laid off.
Our industry is experiencing a seismic shift, and it's shed a lot of really good journalists.
So, where does that leave us? Well, we're definitely laid off,
And we're looking for new jobs, looking for what's left of the industry, and what to do next.
and we're looking at all of it. So, if you're a fellow laid off journalist, a working journalist, or someone who admires the craft, we're looking to build community.
Develop new skills, and try to figure out what just happened.
Welcome to Laid Off and Looking. Yeah, so I don't idle well is I think my headline for our 2 week break. I still did a whole lot of stuff. I didn't I my intent was to just like, chillax and
Hmm.
like it's summer and it was like I mean it was summer like we had that nasty heat wave on the East Coast that
Yeah.
poached everybody. But yeah, no, I failed at the
Uh, I did
don't do
not. I mean,
anything.
I feel like it was definitely a real sort of needed break just to sort of decompress a little bit and kind of, I don't know, get thoughts together, enjoy some downtime and
Yeah.
not feel so it was important because I think obviously sometimes when you are unemployed,
Mm-hmm.
you have there's a lot of other stress that seeps into your world. I'm
Oh,
just right.
completely.
I mean, um, so then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know what? Yes, the stress will still be there, but I still need some time for me. So it was nice to kind of
Yeah.
just, yeah,
It was
unplug a little bit.
complete like yeah, it was decompressed from like the unemployment part of it, decompressed from like starting up this podcast thing, decompressed
Hmm.
from like all of it. And even though I didn't completely put it all down, but still,
Hmm.
yeah, just giving myself some space really like there's been a lot that I feel like I've learned in this, I don't know, pause, whatever the hell you want to call it. And one of them is how badly my body needed a break.
Hmm.
Like I have
Yep.
been, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think I've been working ever since I got a worker's permit when I was, what, like 15, 16.
Wow.
And then it was like work and go to school,
I know.
and then like work through college. And then as soon as I grad, I mean, I was working anyway, and then I was working like multiple jobs right after college. And then, like, I mean, I've been hustling this whole time, the
You
whole
know, and that's
time.
part of this culture though. And listen, of course, trying to sell people off of working hard is an important. I grew up on, I had immigrant parents from Italy,
Mm,
and they instill that in you and the idea of working hard. And, um, but I also think, and you look at the culture we live in right now, everything's about hustle culture. And I think while it is important when you're starting a business and you're doing things to try to do something for oneself, you also have to know how to balance that with some type of break. I think there's this fallacy that unless you're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that you won't hit it. And you know, I think that's you burn out. You don't enjoy sometimes what you're
yeah.
doing, and that becomes a problem too. So this is really important to take these moments, whether it's a weekend sometimes too, and maybe it's not every weekend, maybe it's every other weekend, but you really do have to embrace taking that time for yourself, no matter where you're at in life.
Oh,
I think it's
completely. I'm
important.
constantly preaching that to my mom friends who are always just like, I can't take a break. I have kids. And I'm like, I understand, but like, you are a better mommy when you are fully functioning. If you're just like coasting on fumes, you know, then those tend to be the moments where like afterwards I will hear from somebody and be like, I'm a terrible parent. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're exhausted. Those are two different things.
It's true. You end up feeling guilt. And I think
Yeah,
that's the
I
thing.
get that's a real core tenet of motherhood
But
is
even
guilt.
being unemployed, there's that sense of guilt, like I'm not doing enough. I'm
Oh
not,
my God, that's 100%
right?
unemployment. You haven't applied to enough jobs. If you haven't found a job, it's because you haven't applied to enough.
And I think it's a very different climate right now, especially for people who are experiencing job shortages in their fields.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more competition. It
Mm-hmm.
might mean a lot more people having to pivot. Obviously, we've been focused so much on journalism, but there are other industries that are going through the same stuff that we are going through.
Oh my God, people who, I mean, first of all, I would say just creatives, period.
Hmm.
It's almost as if every manager was just like, oh my God, AI can do it. I'll just get rid of all these people. But from everything I understand, like production, like Hollywood production, television, people who work in entertainment has just been decimated. Like there's people who haven't worked since the strike.
Tech
And
industry is going through stuff too,
yeah,
and
tech has been like, and they've also been, well, from what I understand, and this has just been from a handful of articles that I've read, is that a lot of the, so remember how all the tech companies just sort of exploded on the scene? A
Mhm.
lot of that is because they had insane amounts of venture capital funding behind them. And so basically now it's almost like pay the piper time, where they have to, these, people who invested in these companies want to see returns on their investment. And, part of the allure of coming to work for these companies, and of course, hustle, like when I say hustle, I mean working like 60 maybe 70
Yep,
hour weeks, like sleeping at, so they made these workplaces like amazing, like you
yep.
don't ever have to leave. And now it's like, okay, these huge salaries, they gotta go, all of these
Yep.
amenities, a lot of them gotta go, etc., so that we can make sure that we have the money to start paying these people back.
But isn't that kind of something that every industry does in the sense of like I even look at
I'm not
when I
excusing, I'm just
oh
explaining as I
no,
understand
it's like
it.
they I mean like they I look at even remember when streaming started and it was cheap. You know,
Hmm.
Netflix, especially
Oh
when
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was like $5 a month. Then it became like $10 a month. And and you look at all the different services, right? I always knew I was like, at some point, everybody's starting a service. It's like, hello, everybody. If we all start having to subscribe to each different platform, you're ending up spending just as much money as you would have if you were doing cable. Like
Oh
what
yeah.
people used to complain about their cable bill being $200. Well, guess what? In the end, this ends up being just as much as if you were doing cable. And on top of it, you still have to watch ads. Um,
Well,
I
that's why I think people are also starting to do, like, people are always going to figure out a way to game the system, for lack of a better description. So some of my streaming accounts I've let them lapse. Obviously, I'm unemployed. I do have to make some cuts.
Yeah, same.
And but it doesn't mean that I never want to watch them again. It just means I'm gonna let enough programming build up so that I can get, like, because they usually do like introductory month free, or like even if I'm only
Right.
subscribing for a month, fine. That month I'm gonna binge real hard on
Right.
whatever it is, and then I'm cutting the subscription again.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is to kind of hook you in. And then
Yeah.
once you're in, that's when you get hit with the realities of like, oh, guess what now? We're charging you double what we did before. Or now you, so that's the thing with a lot of these jobs. You know, you bring people in, everybody wanted to work in a lot of those tech industry jobs, or you felt like it was having a fun day. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that some of it wasn't real, but I do think it changed when the business became, tech just became like, well, guess what? We're going to operate just as every other corporate business before us. You know,
Well, I
what
mean,
seemed like it was
isn't
going to be
business
different.
business?
But you know what? I think it sold itself as not being like every other business. Facebook, Instagram, like, you're looking at products that people use every day. And so people think that must be a fun job. And I'm sure in some ways it is. But it also became much more corporate now, just as, Mark Zuckerberg, they're
I was
all
gonna
like,
say a lot of, in the name of drawing people in, I think a lot of especially large organizations sell that. like, oh, it's like it's super fun, and especially once the millennials became a large part of the
Yes.
workforce because they didn't want or expect that sort of traditional cold whatever corporate environment. So just about everybody was selling themselves as like a fun place to work, etc. No, work is still work.
Work is work is work, and you work for corporations, and they just, yeah, in the end, they just want to get the job done, and they will lay you off
And
when they
increase
have to.
value. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So that's why I think that this whole idea of hustle culture is, while I think it's good for
It's
people to,
toxic. No, it really is.
it
It's
is.
toxic. It's very like in the past, I've made myself sick hustling.
Hmm. Hmm. And we kind of just thought that's just part of what work is about.
Yeah.
You just you do it till, like you said, you burn out or you get sick and you push through. I had a boss, I remember, that they told me somebody else had called out sick, and they told me that uh, I never called out sick when I was working, and that person was probably a boomer. Actually was a boomer. No, they were, and I'm not saying it, and I'm not saying disparagingly. I really am not. I'm just trying to give some
No, I'm saying
context
that a
to.
lot of them have a very warped view of work and what is a valuable thing. And I'm sorry, like coming into work sick and making everyone else sick,
Yes, yes.
that's nothing to be proud of, dude.
No. And they told me back then, they were like, oh, yeah, you know what? Like, I would come in, even if I had 102 fever, I would, mind you, I was like, yeah, oh, sure. Of course you did. But exactly what you just said, though, like, you're getting like, it doesn't make sense. And there is a culture in there that's just like, just keep pushing through. And there isn't, the idea that people want corporations or people they work for to actually have to treat them as human beings has become kind of like, what are you expecting from us?
Can you
No,
just treat me like a human?
it's
You're asking
it
for too much love. You're asking for
apparently people don't want to hear that. It's sort of like, I think I told you, or maybe I know I actually didn't, because there was something I saw on LinkedIn, and somebody wrote things that were considered perks at jobs that really should be considered part of, just the basics of what you get out of a job. And that being certain things like, 401ks and healthcare and these things that are
what
um
about
knowing how
pensions?
much carryovers of your PTO time and those types of things. And like, how can you, all these little things that I'm like, oh, coffee, having free coffee and tea
Hmm.
um at the jobs. And somebody wrote in, you know, you don't, well, sorry, but like, why should the corporation invest in you for your retirement when you're not going to care about what happens to the corporation after you leave? And I'm like, hello, like, it's, you asking people to put in 110% of the job, and yet at the same point, you don't want to really compensate them fairly. It's annoying.
Well, but that's also, I mean, that's just
I know.
unfortunately, that's good business because your employees are a resource
Yeah.
and you use that resource up if necessary.
Toss them out.
And yeah, no. And then when it's like
Yeah.
used all the way up, then you replace the resource. Yeah, that's anyway. Yeah. Well, so to the stuff that I've been up to because I can't sit still. Um, for people who are in the New York State area, all of New York State, um, may very well start hearing me on the radio again. Specifically, I will be doing some freelance reporting about our state capital. Um, I can't say ground zero of corruption, but like there is no, seriously, at the because I used to cover Albany before, and there
Yes.
was a counter at the Legislative Correspondence Association, basically, which is actually where I met one of our former guests. But the point is that it was so many days with no indictments or something like that, and they'd constantly have to reset it because politicians in Albany were constantly getting arrested or indicted or all kinds of stuff. So, but anyway, yeah, we've got a big story in the New York metropolitan area, and that of course is congestion pricing for anybody who might be listening outside of the area. That is where beyond a to ease the congestion of traffic in New York, which I'm sure, Dom, you are very well aware is just
Hmm.
nightmarish.
Hmm.
So to ease that, the plan was to charge people to drive past a certain point. I can't remember which street it was. I think it was like 68th Street or something.
Hmm.
If you go south of that, then you would be charged an additional, I don't know, 15, $20 or something like that. And the plan was literally all set to go in motion. I mean, everything. And then at the 11th hour, our governor, Kathy Hochul, was just like, psych, and pulled it off the table. Leaving a few people, including our Metropolitan Transit Authority, aka the MTA, a touch annoyed with her. So I'm sure that'll be a story to follow, but basically, I will be filling in for a legendary New York State reporter, Karen DeWitt, who has rightfully and justly retired. She's taking her time. I think she's actually left the country, to be honest. And
Good for her.
yeah, so that's one of the things that I'll be doing.
Yay. So that's awesome.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank
Well,
you.
you definitely have been really busy. So let me tell you one thing I have been busy with is watching Love Island USA.
Oh my, I never have time for those things.
Jenna, you just find time I mean, I put that on at like 10, 11 o'clock at night to go to bed too, because those are the perfect things to put on and go to bed too.
I'm not mad at it.
I love it. It's just so I've never watched it before. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this.
Well,
Um,
one of my friends talked me into watch. Oh God, what is that Netflix show where they ha date blind dating or date or whatever? It's not Love
oh
Island, but
yeah, yes. It's the one where you actually don't see the person, they're
yes,
behind the wall.
yes,
I
yes.
watched the first season of that years ago. Um, Yeah, it was good the first season. Then after a while, I fell off with it. But
Well,
yeah, this one, I mean, I'm just watching because Ariana Madix from Vanderpump Rules is hosting it now, and I just said,
oh,
let me give it a shot. Yeah, so let me give it a shot. It's so much fun.
I
But
love that.
yeah, other than that, no, it's just been honestly trying to clean up my place a little bit and catch up on some things I've had to catch up on that I feel like sort of fell off after uh of course, between doing the podcast and sort of getting caught up on other things. So yeah, um,
I can I,
sort of trying
I
to
can
keep it
dig it,
together.
Dom, because I also did do some cleaning and organizing, and
Oh,
yeah, well, I mean that's like an ongoing process
I
constantly.
know.
But yeah, some of that, networking. Oh, sorry. I also went to the New York Association of Black Journalists Awards Gala because my podcast, After Broad Market, was a finalist. And drum roll, I didn't win.
Oh, you won. You still won. Being nominated,
Oh,
that's huge to be, you know that. That's
yeah.
huge to be. Congratulations, Sean. That
Yeah.
really is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm immensely proud of that piece. So, that was also something that I did. And God, I just feel like I was everywhere. Like I was either up in Albany or down in New York City or up in Albany or something, just like here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah. I stayed in Brooklyn for the most part. Maybe I went to the city one time. It's just been, yeah, again, that heat wave too kind of knocked me for a loop. But
It
yeah,
actually, like, I reached a point where I was just physically ill. Like, I just could not get up and go out, and I can't. It was rough. And it
so
made
I
me
guess,
feel really, really bad for the
well,
people who either don't have air conditioning or like I don't
or
like
people who work outside.
yeah. Like because in New York State, especially upstate, hashtag air quotes upstate, because I refuse to believe the Hudson Valley, it's not that I don't believe, it's not upstate. I will die on that hill, but that's another
Right.
issue. But yeah, like this is the time when, all the road work happens. And so, there's like guys outside pouring hot asphalt in that weather and like and just, oh my God.
Yeah. No, that was a lot. That was a lot. And and that it's not even really, that wasn't even summer yet. Like it's just the beginning. So
Well, I
I'm like,
heard that Farmer's Almanac, oh my God, I sound like
oh,
such a bumpkin, but the Farmer's Almanac did suggest that this would be a long, hot summer. Hence my getup today with the tank top and the arms out and everything else out,
I
but it's hot.
It's hot. It's hot. Yeah, I'm like I just wearing my t-shirt and I kept the AC on. I'm just like it's even when it's not hot, hot, it's still hot in New York City. It's humid. And
Mm.
the humidity is what always gets to me. But yeah. And I guess we should just let the viewers know, like we obviously this time for this episode, we just sort of caught up a little bit, but like each week we're just gonna sort of shoot the
Yeah,
shit, right? And just like
totally.
at least
There's
until
lots of stuff to
August.
talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
So
fact, between now and next week, a big news story is the first and I don't know, maybe only presidential debate is going to take place. I like did people are already speculating. They're just like, I mean, if they both show up for this debate, and then why would they do another one? Because there's really nothing holding either one of them to it, and da 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 da. And the whole thing is deja vu. And I don't think anyone in this country, I think people are voting for reasons other than the candidates.
now, just so the listener and viewers or whoever are listening, paying attention to us right now, like I want we tape this before the actual first debate is happening.
Oh, that's right,
So,
because this airs on Friday.
but I am curious. Well, this is a good way to check us.
Yeah.
Um, how how much of a shit show do you think this first debate is going to be on a scale of one to
I
10?
don't know because I've been hearing a lot of reporting about how at least President Biden is getting prepped for the debate and how, challenging it can be
Hmm.
to prep a sitting president versus a candidate. Because they've had 4 years of people like standing and saluting when they walk in a
Hmm.
room, and so they're not as amenable to, you know, I don't just want to say criticism, but helpful criticism. My brain just fried. Constructive
Well,
criticism. There we go. They're not as like open to that stuff. But I've also heard in reporting that former President Trump, his people are saying we don't need to program him. Now, I don't know if that's a we don't need to or we just can't announcement, but either way, it should be interesting. What I do like is that let's see, there's no audience, so that also
yep,
helps because now you're not
yep,
playing to an audience
yep.
for laughs or applause. So I think that'll actually help, or at least I think. I don't know. Okay.
I like the microphone thing.
Yes, that you can mute them.
I
That
love
I
that.
love. I
Mute,
love.
mute,
So
mute. I
Jake
love it.
Tapper and Dana Bash just like smashing the mute button like on that The Voice show where they smash the that's what I'm envisioning.
That
They
I
should put them in the
love.
spinny chairs.
Yes.
That
You
would
know,
be great. No, seriously. So like they just asked spin around and smash the mute button. I told you to shut
it's like you've
up.
been put, you get like, or you get pulled back. How about this? And they dim your light. So
Ooh,
you sit in the dark for, you know
there you
what?
go.
Sure. I'm sorry. I mean, listen, this is even like what you were saying about being, whether it's anybody, I mean, should be open. I don't care what sitting president, former president. Yeah, you should deal with a little constructive
Oh,
criticism.
complete.
Everybody needs
Everybody
to learn
should.
how to
Yeah.
deal with some shit. You know what I mean? We all have to. But I'm really curious. I mean, what I don't know, but for me, this is the first time not having to and ages where I haven't had to cover that I know a presidential
Yeah.
election, and this is kind of exhilarating because I can just watch it and have my opinion and just sort of not really care about how do you reporting on this, how it's, I mean, um, at least for me, it's like I'm just taking it in as a civilian voter who's just like, okay, let's
Well,
see
I
what you
have
got.
one more confession to make, and that is that I took a freelancing
I
gig
know.
moderating this. So like I will be working it, but still though, I am super curious to see what
Oh,
plays
so
out.
give me a rating of from 1 to 10. What do you think? How
Well, I'm
how
trying to think. I mean, because the first time that they debated, when they were both candidates 4 years ago, it feels like a million years ago.
Mhm.
Um, And I remember watching it on CNN, and then they cut back to the anchors, And I'm pretty sure Dana Bash on live TV was like, well, that was a shit show. So if that was then, and again, like, they're both going for theoretically their lame duck term because it would be, although, wait a second, it would be the second consecutive term for Biden. But actually, I realize I don't know this for presidential politics. Would this be this considered the second term for Trump and then he can't run again, or does the clock
Right.
start over?
Yeah, correct.
Correct to which
Correct.
one?
That he can't run after this. This would be considered his second. If former
Unless the
president,
also the rumors that like we're never gonna have another election is
that's a whole nother
I
story.
know.
That's why it's his last. That's why it's his last term because he's not leaving
All right.
in
So
his
then
mind.
either way is that you've got two let's say older gentlemen with seemingly nothing to lose on
Hmm.
stage.
Hmm.
Um no love lost between the two of them. Yeah, this could, I just don't see how because you're not just somebody who understands the media landscape now would understand that you're even if you're debating, it's not really about the policy. It's not you're playing to not just the television audience, you're playing to the online audience because it's
Hmm.
about the clips that are going to get pulled, that are going to get shared,
Hmm.
that's what people who didn't watch, that's all they're going to hear about this whole thing. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna give it a 10 plus because I think it's going to somehow it's impossible not to. Just the way they've set this up, somebody's going to speak out of turn and their mic's going to get turned off, which none of us have having not seen something like that before is just going to be dramatic and it's going to happen. There's no way it's not. Well, if it doesn't, I will be shocked. So I'm that will surprise me. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like you said, this is big. And I think I'm very curious to just see how both of them can handle the pressure of the questioning and just seeing how they could I don't know.
Well, we're gonna
I'm
find
curious.
out because by the time this
You're gonna
airs, it will have
I'll
happened.
need to well next week we will have a brief update on that. I can't wait to hear about what happened, how everything went with the show. I'm looking forward to listening. Where are you? What station are you in?
I will be working with the Pacifica
Okay,
broadcast station. So I know it'll be in the New York City area. I think it'll
which is
be
which
nationwide. That would
is
be, I believe, WBAI.
okay.
But I'll have to find out more details, which is wild because we're taping this right now on Wednesday, and I'm like, yeah, there's some details I'm still fuzzy on. Anyway, but such is the life of a freelancer.
There we go.
So yeah, I guess on that note, we'll check back in again next week. But Dom, it was
Good.
so wonderful.
Great to see you and happy 4th of July to everybody. We'll be back next week after
That's
that. We'll be back on the 5th.
right.
So happy 4th to everybody. And yeah,
All right.
see you next week, Jenna.
Deuces.
Bye.
Bye. Laid Off and Looking is an independent podcast conceived of and created by Jenna Flanagan and Dominic Kemia. Music provided by Jay Cowett, research by Lori Ruthenbucker. Reach out to us anytime at laidofandlookingpod@gmail.com. New episodes drop every Friday at noon.